Cheers, I do buckaroos. How the heck are you? You know who I am. We know, Tom. We really know. Anyways, I am Tom, the Whiskey Whisperer. Let me take care of something real quick, though, before we get going. Oh, that didn't work. Try this. Oops, wrong one. Well, goodness gracious, I know that's not working for me here. There we go. That out there. Trying to get something straightened out real quick, guys. Bear with me. Yeah, let me fix the privacy issue I keep having. And I can't figure out why I can't get that fixed permanently, but I can't seem to be able to. Ah, all right, there we go. Put an invite to a friend who said you want to be part of this video, so I'll see if he responds. Anyway, so I want to show you something here. I don't know if you can see that real well. Pick that up. It's a diamond, man. It's my wife got these diamond ice cube molds. There's Peter here. Let me see if I pull him up on the screen here. Add to stage, it says. There we go. Hey, Peter, how are you, sir?
Good, Tom. How are you?
So I was going to do, I've got two whiskeys to have with you. I was going to do both neat, but my wife bought me these diamond molds. I had glow molds, but she got me a diamond one. I don't know if you could tell it's a diamond in that glass there, but anyways, I'm going to
I don't think
pour
I've ever
some
seen
in
diamond
there.
ones before.
And I hadn't seen a diamond either. I've got various shapes or various sizes of globe, I should say. And so I'm going to put 1.5 ounces of some Bushmills Prohibition in there. And I'm going to put that off to the side in my Bushmills glass. I don't know if you could tell it's a diamond mold in there or not.
I can see that. Yeah, now I can see it.
There we go.
So it's like
Yeah,
a
what I
cut
am going
diamond.
to do neat,
It's
like I
not a
said,
diamond shape.
yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah, there's definitely a diamond shape in there. I hadn't seen those before, so my wife found them actually. So how are you doing tonight? What are you drinking, sir? My friend Peter.
Well, so first up, I gave myself a pour of this Horse Soldier Reserve.
Okay, I remember you talking about that one. Okay, where'd you
Um,
find that at, Peter?
so I bought this a couple of years ago in Arizona.
A couple years. So you've had that for a while.
Yeah, I'd been sitting on it. I just didn't know when I was going to open it.
So what made you open it now?
It is my 1 year anniversary since I retired from the Army.
So that's a bit of a milestone. I didn't realize it only been a year because it's probably right about this time last year that I met you at Banter Brewing.
Yes, I believe that's correct. But I mean, we had messaged before. I'd seen your work before in other beer groups,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd mentioned that I wanted to meet up with you for a beer when I was home on leave, but I just had never gotten around to it. And then randomly to see you sitting on the stool, I think you were doing a live video there that day.
I think I was, and I don't know that I put it together that it was you, if you know what I mean. I mean, when somebody messaged you on social media, I didn't know that I put it together that it was the same person.
Oh, sure. No.
Until it's, oh yeah, no, I get it. That's you. Okay, now I see it's the same.
So
But
I'm
we
starting with
also
that.
found out over the year, I guess, that we've known each other, that we actually have a few folks, people that we've known in common,
Yes.
which is kind of odd. How small Springfield is kind of one of those very small, big cities kind of thing.
Well, I wouldn't have it any other way though, Tom. I like having the conveniences of a big city, if you will, like the theater or going to the
It's like that
ballet, for
6 degrees
example.
of Kevin Bacon, right? It seems like everybody's 5 people away from knowing everybody in Springfield, right?
That is very true. But so I started with that Horse Soldier, and then
Uh-huh.
because we had that Whistle Pig earlier, I had a bottle of this that I've been sipping on. I don't know if you can see the label.
Okay, so tell me about that.
So it is, I guess, from what they were telling me at Hy-Vee, I was talking to Tim, and he was saying that the Alberta Premium wheat is or rye, I should say, is where Whistle Pig sources their rye from for their
Really?
their
Okay, that's
bourbon.
interesting. All right.
And so I thought, well, since we had some really nice Whistle Pig that I'll probably never be able to have again, I might as well have something close.
Yeah, that Whistle Pig that Brandon was sharing with us was pretty serious.
I think that was probably the smoothest rye that I've had.
Well, when he said, it's just shy of a $400 whiskey. I'm thinking, oh my Lord.
Whatever they're doing it correctly, though. Whistle Pig. I mean, they seem like they came out of nowhere.
I've got the basic product here. I mean, I've got the 6-year-old piggyback, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good whiskey. It's very good. But when you taste that 15, I mean, that's at a whole other level.
But they're a fairly new distillery, if I remember correctly, right? They've only been around for maybe 10 years or so.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know. But since we both have the ability to look stuff up,
oh, that's true.
Check real quick. Since we all have the internet at our fingertips, let's find out. Well, it would help. My fingers worked.
2007.
Okay, so they've been around a minute, but they're not old, right?
They launched their first brand in 2010, and their 10-year rye was released in 2015.
Oh, wow. Okay. There you go.
So I was going to say, like, I don't remember seeing them on the shelves years ago. You know what I mean?
That is relatively young in the in the grand spectrum of distilleries, right? That is rather young.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you have reached the gravitas that they seem to be, right? Because at this moment in time, they really are the be-all, end-all of rye whiskey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So to have only been around, what did you say, 2007?
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at 16 years to be only in the picture for 16 years and to be thought of basically as the best.
Mm-hmm.
That's rather insane.
Well, I mean, so a lot of the other distilleries are, I wouldn't say young because they're not, but a lot of them are just resurrections of old brand names.
There is a lot of I hate to do this, but there's a lot of label whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Where you have labels that are printed out by other distilleries. Hey, this is a brand new whiskey, really? Or this is a resurrection of an old label? No, I'm serious. Where it's just your same old distillery with a new label on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think Old Grandad is. I think they shut down after during Prohibition. There was very few distilleries that survived Prohibition. No, so to say they date back all the way to the 1800s is kind of a falsity.
Well, see, that's the thing. We talk about. I'm more of an Irish whiskey drinker than a Scotch whiskey drinker, but the reason, the main reason why Scotch whiskey really got a foothold in America and Irish whiskey didn't early on is because the Scotch distilleries had enough foresight to think that America wasn't going to sustain Prohibition for that long a period of time. So they kept producing product where Irish whiskey did not. When Prohibition was repealed, Scotch whiskey was able to flood the markets where other whiskeys were not, even bourbon whiskey. So early on, Scotch whiskey flooded the market as your upscale whiskey, whereas what bourbon survived was basically working class fodder.
Well, and that's why, I think we've talked about this before. I've got a bunch of the old, and they're just bottles that these bourbons came in, like Old Forester. but they're so beautiful. I mean, these bottles are a work of art because nobody was buying it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So on the shelf, it had to kind of stand out, you know.
Mm-hmm. But you know, bourbon throughout the even 50s, 60s, even 70s, even 80s for that matter, bourbon was always thought of as working class whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
There's working class folks were buying bourbon. If you had money, you were buying scotch.
Yes.
But that's not the case anymore. I mean, bourbon has become an elite whiskey.
Oh, very much so. I mean, scotch. It blows my mind. I can buy a 20-year-old bottle of scotch. I could actually afford to buy that. A 20-year bottle of bourbon, on the other hand, no.
See, here's the thing. That was always the thing, though. A 20-year bottle of scotch usually was out of the realm of possibility, but you could buy a bourbon because nobody wanted it. Until Pappy became what it became, and now you have bourbons being sought after more than other whiskeys, and nobody really saw that coming.
No.
Bourbon was always kind of this working class whiskey that only working class guys, it's a blue collar whiskey. Let me say that, blue collar whiskey.
Like guys that like to fight and just drink to get drunk and
yeah. But that's not the case anymore.
Mm-mm.
It's almost the opposite of that, to be honest with you. So scotch still is that upper class whiskey, but bourbon really isn't thought of that poor man's whiskey
anymore. I still wish, though. I hear stories about the guys that drank bourbon, years ago, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you still find X, Y, and Z on the shelf."
I can remember even. I mean, even a decade ago, being able to find Pappy rather accessible.
Really?
I was able to. Yeah, I mean, you were able to buy bottles of Pappy for about $50.
Wow.
I bought some back in 2012 for about $50. I mean, 10 years ago, $50 was a lot of money. It still is now, but I mean, $50 10 years ago was like $100 now. It seems like, but anyway, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of whiskeys that were readily available. The fact that Buffalo Trace is allocated is really bizarre to me. Because I'm $20 to $25 bourbon, but the fact that people are waiting in line to buy Buffalo Trace seems, I mean, why? I don't understand it at all. And a lot of that to me feels like bourbon drinkers have become lemmings, right? As soon as somebody prints, hey, this is allocated, they want to go out and buy that whiskey just because it's allocated rather than to buy it because it's good.
Right. And there's guys I've talked to about this that their big thing is they've stopped buying stuff like that because it's all hype and garbage. So what they do is they buy like barrel picks. So like if Hy-Vee does a barrel pick, they'll buy a bottle of that.
I do. I love the store picks. I love the barrel picks. I love the single barrel picks.
Well, that's the difference between our two bottles of Bloody Butcher there.
See, that's bizarre. I mean, I've got these two right here. Where did I put them? Those two bottles they're single barrel. I remember the thing that always threw me off is the flavors and aromas that you were describing to me that you got from your whiskey. I'm thinking, man, that's not what I'm tasting at all. Until I taste them both side by side, I said, oh, now I get it. Had I not known they were the same whiskey or the same label, I would have thought they were two completely different whiskeys because there's not any similarities between the two, other than they're the same corn, they're the same distillation. The only difference is the barrel, but they feel like two completely different whiskeys.
We should blind taste it.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring him in my next shift next Thursday, and hopefully you'll be around and we'll do that.
Yeah, I could do that, I think.
Because they are completely different. As I was drinking, I'm going, holy crap! There's nothing really alike about these two whiskeys at all. So the second whiskey I poured here, I want to show this to you because this is another one I want to bring in to share with you. So my new thing in whiskey, because bourbon seems to be a bit of a trend these days, and I never want to do anything that's trendy. I've always gone out of my way to not be trendy. It's kind of my trend is to not be trendy. is that my thing is American single malt whiskeys, and this one is from Union Horse out of Lenexa, Kansas. And gosh, this is my new favorite whiskey. I love this stuff, and it's about a $60 whiskey, so it's not crazy priced. It runs the 96 proof, and again, it's an American single malt whiskey. I'm going to read just a touch here, just to give you a. There we go. Rivalist American Single Malt Whiskey is a small batch artisanal whiskey made from 100% malted barley. So this is all malted barley. Handcrafted start to finish using the finest Midwest barley in our copper pot still in new oak barrels. I was trying to get age on there. They don't give a specific age though, so I'm going to show you that there. But this stuff
is pretty smooth.
Insanely good. I want to bring this in for you to try next time I'm on ship. Oh God, it's just amazing. So your horse shoulder, tell me about the flavors and aromas that you're picking up from that.
Well, I've actually finished that one now, but I have moved on to that Alberta, and
so tell me about that then.
So this one I get almost a sort of a toasted cinnamon kind of scent off of it.
Uh-huh.
And on the tongue initially, it's kind of that herbal rye flavor, but then it fades back to notes of like caramel.
So are you becoming that rye drinker?
Say what?
Are you becoming that rye drinker?
I do like rye. I always stayed away from it for years, and then somebody mentioned Sazerac in a bourbon group I was in, and I was like, well, okay. And so I bought a bottle because I could get it in Arizona off the shelf for $20 at the local.
Yeah.
So I started drinking Sazerac. I'm like, this is quite good. It's much, it's different than anything I'd had before.
Yeah.
But I mean, rye versus, corn or wheat.
Well, see, my dad was always a bourbon drinker, and he always said I didn't like rye. So being, I like my dad, I didn't like rye, even though I never tasted one. And as I started drinking rye, so I'm thinking, I kind of like rye. Do I like it better than bourbon? I won't say that, but there are some ryes that I really enjoy a lot. I've been buying a lot more ryes over the last, let's say, half dozen years.
I don't remember what it was.
Yeah,
there was something that I could get in Arizona that I liked that I can't get here. I don't remember what it was. But I did start drinking Rockin' Rye.
That's kind of that's very sweet.
It is. But so I was watching a video of a guy that I like that makes cocktails, and he was talking about it, and he wanted to make his own version of it. And he said, this used to be medicine. It used to be cough syrup. You'd keep it in the back. And if you were sick, your grandma would give you a pour of this, and it's just rock sugar and rye whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's cherries and oranges and things in it too. So we tried all the commercial ones, and that was the one he recommended.
Well, I mean, before political correctness, I know as kids, of course, I was born in 1965. My parents would put, for teething, they would use, whiskey on your gums.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, that's thought of as bad now, but that's how it was done back then. You can't do that. No, you got to use something else. As somehow 100 chemicals are better than just a little straight whiskey.
Well, at least the whiskey's not going to cause any bacteria.
I'm just saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, give us the whiskey, man. It's not going to hurt them. Anyway, it was a different time. That's all I got to say about that. The thing of it is, my dad was a big whiskey drinker. My dad was one of those drinkers where if my dad had one beer, he had 12. If he had a shot, he'd have half a fifth.
Oh, wow.
he didn't drink every day, but when he drank, he drank. Of the 5 kids, I'm really the only one that got the drinking bug, but I've never really drank like my dad. I've been able to have a couple and say, okay, I'm done. Yeah, or not. I mean, there are times I've gone too far. I won't say that I haven't, but I don't always have that need to go too far. I guess it's just the kind of I guess it just depends on your upbringing and your need for the
Sure,
product, I guess.
sure.
But again, of the 5 kids, I'm really the only one that really had a taste for it right from the start. I guess was the point of what I was saying is the first time I had whiskey, I didn't have to be coaxed into it. So, oh, that's good. I didn't have to put sugar in. I had to put soda pop in. I had a little bit of straight Jim Beam, thinking, oh, I like that.
I was not that way. I bought myself a bottle of, maybe 8 years ago. I bought myself a bottle of not High West, Bullet bourbon.
A Bullet, okay.
And I would pour myself 2 fingers over ice and let it melt and then drink it. And I didn't enjoy it. But I did that every night for about a month, I think. And I finally was able to, okay, yeah, this is good.
So I have a recommendation for you. Look for the movie Bullet to the Head. Came out 2013. Stars Sylvester Stallone and Song Kang.
I'm adding it to my list.
Bullet to the Head, great movie. But all through the movie, Sylvester Stallone goes into every bar looking for Bullet whiskey.
Does he like it?
Yeah, it's his whiskey. And almost every bar he walks into doesn't have it, and he has a bottle on him. So he pays the bartender to give him a glass so he can pour his own whiskey. It's just hilarious. Bullet to the Head, yeah.
Let me see if I can find a film here. I was going to see if you'd seen this one because I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think we discussed that you'd liked the actor.
So while you're looking for that, I'm going to talk a little bit. I went to Macadoodles today, and I'm always on the lookout for different bitters. I found these rhubarb bitters in Kansas City about a month and a half ago, and as I was going through the Macadoodles today, they had plum bitters, so I picked those up today. I haven't done anything with them yet, so I figure after we're done with our video here, I'm going to make a cocktail with those plum bitters and do another video, but I haven't decided if I want to do an old-fashioned or a Manhattan yet.
Yes, you'll definitely have to let me know what you think of that.
But these rhubarb, I need to let you try some of these because these are very interesting too. It just gives your cocktail just a slight tartness, a little bit of spice.
What did you make it with?
I've been using them in both. To be honest with you, I've been using both old fashioned and a Manhattan.
Did you do a maple syrup old fashioned with those?
But both cocktails call for bitters, so I've been using these in old fashioned and a Manhattan.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was going to ask you, what was that Thai Ikadah bourbon that you liked?
So Tiaki Da, the one I had was Oracle, but if you go to Whiskey Tango in Ozark or the Whiskey Tango in North Macadoodles, they have both of those stores have a single barrel of the Tiaki Da Hinterland, which is their bourbon that's finished in maple barrels.
So the reason I asked was Tim at Hy-Vee has all 4 varieties of it.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I didn't know.
My favorite is the Oracle.
Okay. Because they had the Hinterlands, they had the Oracle. So one was sherry, one was port, one was maple syrup, and then one was just regular cask.
I will tell you though, in all honesty, the maple syrup, the Hinterland, is the most popular, but I love the Oracle, the sherry. But the Hinterland really is the most popular. I want to be clear about that.
Now, have you had the Bowman Brothers Port Barrel?
I have not. No, I have not had that one.
I'll have to bring it up for you to sample one of these days. Maybe when I come up and we do that test.
Well, we need to get together at Sid's or something, and we'll put our stuff together.
It's something I picked up randomly in Arizona because it was from Virginia, where I'd lived right before I moved to Korea. And so I was like, oh, I'd never heard of this distillery. I want to give it a try. And I'd never had port barrel finish before. And I was like, man, this is really good. And it was only like $30 a bottle.
I do love port barrel finish. Yeah, port barrel is something special. So I do want to ask you that we touched on it briefly, but then we kind of start talking about mostly whiskey. This is your 1 year anniversary out from the Army. So how has life been treating you? How have you been able to adjust?
It's been interesting. Going to school has been a big boon because it gives me that sense of, I guess, responsibility. Like I have a purpose. I have a reason to get up and go do something instead of not working.
Yeah.
But it is a bit of an adjustment. People are not the same way as they used to be. I'm not in charge of people, or I have no say in things. But I got to meet a lot of great people like yourself and the rest of the banter crew and some people back here in Springfield that I hadn't seen in a while. And so
yeah.
Being home and being able to help with my folks with things has been nice.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I think another thing that's hard is I've never owned a house before, and I've never known that I was going to stay somewhere longer than 3 years. And so,
are you looking at staying in Springfield now that you're back? Is this going to be your home?
Yep. I'm never moving again.
Okay.
I mean, barring some horrific disaster.
Well, the main reason I was asking is because I have a friend, or actually, they were a friend of my wife's before we met, and then we became great friends after my wife and I met and got married. But I have a friend who retired after 20 years on the sub in the Navy, and he just has I mean, this is many years later, he's still struggling with adjusting to not being in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Even we're talking, almost 20 years later now.
Well, I mean, for example, we've got a lot of decor and paintings and things, but none of it's on the walls. We've lived here for a year because it's not something we think about. It's like, oh yeah, we'll just have to take it down again anyway. But like what I have been doing a lot is little repairs to the house. Like we got new windows put in, blinds, curtains, a ton of yard work with cleaning up and beautifying it. I mean, I cut a tree down and took out several bushes.
So are you enjoying doing that?
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot to keep up with. I'm like, oh, there's so many things we need to do, and I have to remember, like, I have time. I have nothing but time.
So do you appreciate? Do you look at that from a military point of view or from a civilian point of view?
I think I look at it from the military point of view, and like, I need to get this done. Like, it needs to be done.
Yeah.
This is not satisfactory, but at the same time, it's like, the windows function. They keep things out.
Yeah.
Can we open them? No.
I think that was, the way you say that almost reminds me a lot of my dad, even though my dad had been out of the service for many years before he had his kids. It seemed like everything he approached was from a military point of view. It's like things that seem to be a moral imperative for him seem to us kids as, Dad, we can do that tomorrow.
But I have been enjoying it. Names took me a while to remember names because I'm used to seeing them on shirts all the time.
I'm not a military guy, and I can't remember names. I think I talked to you like 6 times before I got your name to memory.
Well, that's okay. You don't have to remember my name. The important names are the ones you want to remember.
Gotcha. I just remember when I first started going into banter regularly, I would start going in there every Friday, and I'd run into you and Jimmy like clockwork.
Yeah. Well, and I feel bad because, like Craig and Sid want to come up and chit chat and have fun, but they can't get there until, 5 o'clock. And that's about when I have to, get home before the pumpkin turns into a carriage. or the carriage turns into a pumpkin, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I get that too. Yeah.
So I need to figure out a good balance between getting there and hanging out with Jimmy, and then also,
Because Sid and Prey don't usually get off to about 4-ish.
yeah, they don't get there till 5, but I gotta have dinner at 5, you know? So it's just tough.
Yeah.
It's a balancing act.
Yeah, so you eat like an old person, like I do. You want that early bird dinner.
I just got on a routine. When parking used to be a premium on the base, I would take my lunch at 11 because by the time I got back from lunch, everyone was leaving for lunch and I could get the really nice primo spots.
Yeah.
But then by like 5, I was hungry, right? And the DFAC was open, like the dining facility was open. I've been learning to cook this past year, Tom.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. So how's that going for you?
I enjoyed how those meals that we talked about tasted, the ones that came in the box.
Is your wife satisfied with the cooking? I guess that's the most important part.
Yeah, I managed to do quite a bit of it myself. There were some things that I wasn't allowed to do because I've proven unsafe at it so far.
Do you like the meal programs that you were talking about?
I did, except for the fact that it felt like it just added more time to my day, like an hour and a half to my day.
So we talked about this a little bit. So my wife actually got the exact same program that you had, and she did it because, when I first had my surgery done, I couldn't cook. So she wanted to have stuff they couldn't cook. But they said the prep time was about 40 minutes, and it would take about actually 2 hours to get everything done when they said 45 minutes.
Which I call bullshit on because that is not how it works.
So she started cooking about 4, and we'd be eating like 6:30. You know.
Exactly. Well, and especially like I said, there's things I had to wait.
It was absolutely unreasonable.
Well, and their directions weren't always so good because
no, they weren't very clear. I think my wife said the same thing. The directions weren't clear.
We had 2 that came with potatoes, and it said, on one recipe card it said use 4 ounces of potatoes. But is that 6 for this one and 6 for this one, or is it And it ended up being like this odd number of potatoes too, and odd numbers of carrots.
Well, because the potatoes were not the same size. Like you were supposed to measure each potato, right?
Right. So let me just bust out my scale here that I've carried everywhere with me.
It's like they assumed you had a scale. I'll tell you something true though. Once we went through all the meals, we still had about 8 potatoes left. And when we tried to use the exact, or my wife was doing about, what she felt was the exact amount per meal, we still ended up with 8 extra potatoes. So I cooked them for something else. But I'm not really sure how they designed this to go.
So speaking of potatoes, a couple of years ago, my wife, she makes shepherd's pie, homemade shepherd's pie from scratch.
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
And so she made some, and she said, I need 1.5 pounds potatoes. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I go to the store, and I see, this bag says 0.5 pounds of potatoes. It's a pretty heavy bag of potatoes, but it's only 0.5 pounds. Okay, we'll go with that. So I bought 3 of them for 1.5 pounds. Well, it turns out it was 15 pounds.
You bought 15 pounds of potatoes.
And I was like, here you go. And she's like, no. She only really needed.
You had a lot of extra potatoes?
Yeah, I gave them to some friends of ours that lived in Arizona there.
You couldn't just make extra things with the potatoes?
I mean, I suppose so, but not after like a whole bunch of homemade mashed potatoes. I don't need more potato things. But I will say it was shortly after that holiday that I learned that it doesn't have to be Thanksgiving to get stuffing. As an adult, I can have stuffing. I can have stovetop stuffing anytime I want.
Absolutely. There's no rules. There's no stuffing police.
I think I will say from now on that is like
stuffing in April. No.
That is an unsung benefit of living in America. I can have stovetop stuffing.
I love stuffing. I can have it in April. I can have it in June. I can have it in August. I can have it in January. And the best part of that is I don't necessarily have to have it on a holiday either. If I choose not to have stuffing on Thanksgiving, I can do so.
It's just these little things in life that I'm finding as an adult,
I think we get certain things drilled in our heads that you have to do certain things at certain times.
Mm.
And if what I said earlier didn't kick, I mean, I've always been that. I know if rebel's the right word, but I've never wanted to fit in with anything. So if somebody tells me I have to do something at a specific time, I'm going to make sure I never do that ever.
Oh, see, I'm the opposite of that. I have to. You have to give me a set time and a set schedule. And if
Oh
you
no,
don't give me a set time or a set schedule, I don't know what to do.
I never want to be a part of anything. I've never wanted to be. I I don't want to join anything. I want to be a part of anything. I'm not going to join a church because I don't want to have to be there at any certain time. I'm not going to. I've never wanted to be any trend clothing wise. I make sure I'm not a part of anything.
But you're a bourbon connoisseur,
I am.
and that's a big trend right now, Tom.
I'm just a guy that likes to drink bourbon. Again, I don't like words like connoisseur because that makes me feel a little pretentious.
You need
I
to
buy what I can afford, and I enjoy the whiskey.
you need to specialize in something that nobody drinks whatsoever. Like figure out how to get really big into absinthe and being able to tell all the different flavors of absinthe.
Yeah, you know what? So say here's my problem with absinthe is that it all tastes like black licorice.
Yeah, there's nothing special about it.
And I don't like black licorice. If it had another flavor, because I've tried, I really did. I tried to take what you said to heart before you said it, but no, absinthe. I really tried to like it many years ago, but I don't like black licorice. And every absinthe you taste tastes like black licorice.
I'm trying to think of the cocktail.
Oh, I've
There's a
never liked
cocktail that's
Jägermeister either.
it's a bourbon and cognac and absinthe cocktail.
Huh. I'm not sure what that is either. That sounds interesting.
I had someone make me one, and it was really,
Like
really.
to get you rather hammered quickly.
I don't think it was much of it because it's like a rinse of absinthe in the glass.
Huh. Well, that sounds about right. Yeah. That
What is
little
the
bit of
name
black
of it?
pepper just enough to
It's a
ruin the
French
whole fucking
cocktail.
drink.
Oh, that movie I was going to suggest. Do you know who Sam Rockwell is?
Oh, I absolutely do. I love Sam Rockwell.
So this is a film from 2015 with him and Anna Kendrick in it. And it is excellent. Excellent film called Mr. Right.
Oh, I have seen that movie. Yeah, I love Sam Rockwell. I always thought he was going to be a big star. Never quite got there. There's one movie. I'm going to make sure I got the name right before I quote it at you. It was about Chuck Barris of Gong Show fame.
Oh, yes, yes.
That his secret identity was really a CIA agent.
Really?
Yeah, and he floated that script around Hollywood for a long time, and it, see if I can find that movie here. Can't quite remember the name of that movie. Be just a second here. I'm almost
That's all right.
there. I remember. Confessions of a Dangerous Mind also had Drew Barrymore in it. Oh, it drive me crazy. I can't remember the name. Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Okay.
Look up that movie. It is absolutely brilliant. So it pontificates that Chuck Barris, the Gong Show persona was really just a persona meant to hide his identity as a CIA agent or CIA hitman, really. Of course, the CIA denied it, but there's a lot of things in that movie that make you think, damn, it could be true, because what better persona would there be? You know, I mean, really, if you want to say I'm a hitman, but I'm not a hitman, well, what better cover would be than to be a Gong Show host? I mean, other than me, right? A beer whisperer, my persona, I'm actually a CIA hitman. Other than that, I mean, Chuck Barris was absolutely brilliant. The movie's just genius, though.
I will tell you, the majority of the CIA agents I've worked with have been women, and
Really?
I'd
Okay.
say most of them you wouldn't assume were working for the agency.
Wow, that's wild.
One of them, she looked like and dressed like Queen Elizabeth.
Really? That's funny.
Uh-huh. One of them was just like middle class Midwestern mom, kind of
Wow.
dumpy, nice lady though.
Have you watched the show on Paramount called Special Ops Lioness?
I have not. I've seen it. It looks interesting, like it would be
Oh,
up my alley.
I don't. Again, you'd have to tell me if it was realistic or not, but it feels like it is written absolutely brilliantly. It kind of shows you the good, the bad, the indifferent of the whole thing.
Yeah, I have to check it out.
Well, I remember watching that show and talking to my wife. I said, I don't know if the CIA or the powers that be would love this show because they're saying these things or hate this show because they're saying these things.
I think there's a lot of Hollywood over dramatization in things, and that's okay.
Because every time I see something like that, it always kind of reminds me of the old adage about laws and sausages, is that nobody ever wants to see how either one of them is made. And it kind of, as I was watching that show, that just kept running through my head is that if any of this is even remotely true, it's one of those things that the American people just doesn't want to know this stuff.
It's kind of like
They want it to happen. They want to see the end result, but they don't want to see how it happens.
well, so I mean, there's another thing too. A thing about how when you want security, you're gonna have to give up freedoms. Like if you
Yeah.
like look at air travel. It's much more secure. It's not really, but
So how many freedoms are you willing to give up, I guess is the question, right?
to be 100% safe. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Now we have a certain situation where the interpretation of that is different, right? You have certain governors in certain states that say, okay, now to protect your freedom, I now have to ban these specific books. You can't read them, but it's to protect your freedom. So
Sure.
how logical is that, though?
We do phrase things like that. That these
I
are
mean,
dangerous.
when did the Diary of Anne Frank become, communist propaganda? I mean, why is that a book that has to be banned for our freedom? I can't understand, and I haven't been able to get anybody on the other side to really explain that to me either.
No, I completely agree. I
Why
find
is
it all very
Slaughterhouse Five
interesting.
somehow communist propaganda? I don't get that either. I mean, I read that. I was 13 when I read that book. I didn't
Which
necessarily
one?
want to, overthrow the government, so I'm not really sure why it's a problem now.
Which one was it?
Slaughterhouse Five.
I never read that one. I did read 1984 when I was very young.
Oh, see, there you go. That's another one that's being banned by, this crazy ass guy in Florida.
I was reading about some of those politicians today. They're holding up stuff for like the what is it called? The spending bill.
Yeah, yeah.
And they don't want to give aid to Ukraine. And I'm like, that's a sovereign nation that's being invaded by another nation. And you guys don't have a problem with that? Like, you don't want to help them? Like, when did we become pro-Russia?
That's the thing is, when did we all start cozying up to Putin? When did he become the good guy?
I wish I knew.
I mean, Putin invades a country for no other reason than he wanted to invade the country. There is no justification, no matter what they want to tell you. They're trying to justify why he did it, and said, "Oh, but I don't care why he did it, but we still shouldn't give money to the Ukraine. But why?"
Well, and it's funny because he said that ostensibly they're doing it to protect Ukraine from right-wing white supremacists. But then we look around here at home and we have right-wing white supremacists standing outside Disney supporting DeSantis, for example.
Yeah.
And we're like, that's fine.
I mean, Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying that Trump, for example, is a Nazi, but I'm saying that Nazis think he is because they're supporting him. I mean, whether he is a Nazi, whether he carries a band, I don't know, but I'm saying the Nazis think he's okay. So if the Nazis think you're okay, I'm saying there's probably a problem with
Yes, I
it.
completely agree.
I'm not saying Trump has a white hood in his closet, but I am saying that the KKK likes it.
And they don't like the left usually. They don't like Bernie Sanders, for example.
What always cracks me up is the folks on the right always want to say, well, the KKK was founded by Democrats. Well, I don't care who it was founded by, but I'm telling you, every member of the KKK is not voting for one Democrat ever. And that's what's
Now they
important right now.
the
There's
problem
not
is
a
the two
member
political
of a
parties
KKK
flip flopped.
that's ever going to vote for a Democrat. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
We're doing. I'm taking American history this semester at university,
Uh-huh.
and it's interesting looking at what the founding fathers actually intended. Like actually looking at the documents and actually reading, letters from them. Like, do not have political parties; they will destroy the country.
They weren't wrong. But then again, I think we need to quit looking at the founding fathers as if they were infallible. I mean, there are problems of the Constitution, like folks that say, I'm a constitutional purist. Everything should be just as the Constitution said. Well, we're looking at a certain segment of our society as 3/5 of a person. So obviously, our founding fathers made some mistakes.
Yes, we talked about that in psychology the other day about how, as much as we like to say, "Hooray, we let women be equal to us," that is actually not the case. There's still so
No,
much
no, we did
inequality.
not. Even after the emancipation, they were still not equal. And
Correct.
even today in our society, this is the issue we have: is that not everybody is treated equal.
But people don't understand that. They think, well, I'm poor and they're poor, so therefore it's the same.
Yeah.
Or they just don't work hard enough. But did you know how many Americans
I
work
love that
multiple jobs?
I love that they or those people. Those people. I love when I hear those people. What people are you referring to? Those people. What people are you referring to? And I never get a straight answer. What people?
But hey, Tom, I just looked at the clock. I'm going to have to get out of here, so I'm going to wish you a good evening, sir.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate you popping on.
No worries.
I want to thank my friend Peter for joining us. I am Tom, the Whiskey Whisperer, for the purpose of this video. Whiskey evangelist, prolific whiskey drinker, purveyor of wisdom, and all around good guy. Do me a favor, Peter. Don't drop off right away. I want to say something to you right at the end. And
Sure.
thanks, folks, for joining us as I end this video.